I'm Nick Baldridge from the For Amusement Only EM and Bingo Pinball podcast. What's that sound? It's Greg and George from the SNES podcast.
$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES podcast with your hosts, Soulblazer and George.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Super NES podcast. This is episode number 90 coming to you this time. I'm Greg, joined by my usual co-host George.
Episode 90.
Yes, we're getting up there. Scary, isn't it?
A little bit.
And we're once again honored to have with us again for the third time back in the show, the one and the only, the amazing pinball guru, Nicholas.
The honor's all mine, gents.
Are you sure there's only one of him?
Last time I checked.
I need some clones.
Oh no.
Yeah, that'd be very handy to get all your work done, wouldn't it?
It would.
So we invite Nick to come back on the podcast with us again because we're talking about a pinball game. We're talking about the sequel to the game that Nick joined us with for 7 months ago, Pinball Dreams. We're talking about its follow-up, Pinball Fantasies. Thank you again for agreeing to come back on the podcast, joining us again, Nick.
Anytime, thank you.
So I started off last time with a pinball question for you, so I got another pinball question for you to kind of segue into things. Because I don't think I've asked you this before in the past, so I'm kind of, honestly curious. What are a few of your all-time favorite pinball games, both from the mechanical, both mechanical table one, table ones like in the video game versions?
As far as physical pinball machines, some of my favorites are Sing Along, which was made in the 60s, Medieval Madness, which was made in the late 90s.
Yep.
And Pinbot, which was made in the early 80s. Yeah,
the last two I played and really enjoyed, but I never heard the first one.
Yeah, when I started getting into pinball as a hobby, instead of just going out and playing on location, I started seeking out these older machines, and I was amazed by how complex and fun they were, and there's just something about the purity of it, which we'll kind of get into here when we talk about the video version that we're going to talk about today. But as far as video pinball goes, I think I mentioned last time I played a ton of Pinball Dreams on the Game Boy when I was a kid.
Yes.
I played, of course, the NES pinball a lot, with Mario and I guess Daisy's in that one.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
But,
yeah.
And the NES version of Pinbot as well. And other than that, I haven't played a whole lot of digital pinball until kind of modern times with the advent of kind of the Pinball Arcade or the Pinball Hall of Fame collections that they put out a couple generations ago. So I kind of missed a lot of digital pinball that I'm kind of going back and trying to experience with fresh eyes. And this was an opportunity to experience this one, so thank you very much.
Oh, sure. But I also have fond nostalgia like for the NES pinball, because it's like, I think I told the story. I've told the story like before in the past, but when my parents bought me my NES for Christmas of '87, they were pretty hard to find like that time point, and so they bought the only two games that were actually in stock in the store. The time they got the system, which was Top Gun, like a pinball. So those games along with the package of Super Mario Brothers, like, were the games I had for several months only, and just I played the heck out of them because of that.
Excellent.
But
I love the NES pinball. I think that's a very good digital pinball game.
Yeah, it's not bad, like, for what it is. I mean, like, it's very simplistic, but it's still like a very fun game.
Mm-hmm.
But so George, I don't want to leave out this conversation. Like, I know your experience like pinball is pretty limited. Do you have any favorite tables?
Not really. I haven't played too much of anything really, so I couldn't. I can't really say anything, to be honest. I'm familiar with something you brought up before, but I just lack of experience. I just don't have much to say. Well,
yeah, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the fact that pinball is kind of hard to find these days. If you're
yes.
Dedicated classic retro arcades. I mean, surprisingly enough, airports are still a good place to find pinball tables. Like, my airport here in Providence has a couple of tables there, in their game room, and airports seem like a pretty good place to find them at for some reason.
I don't think any airports near me have anything like that.
There's still some bars that still have still carry a pinball table or two as well. So, and sometimes bowling alleys.
Yeah, bowling alleys make sense.
Yeah, the bowling alleys, airports, they used to be everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Around here, it got so bad that there was basically one location that had any pinball machines at all.
Oh, geez.
And they didn't maintain them. They had two, and they basically let them be played to death. So now things are starting to turn around in my area a bit. We have 3 or 4 different locations that are open to the public to play, which is pretty exciting. I know it doesn't sound like much, compared to like the 80s when there were hundreds of locations, but it's getting there. So it's kind of exciting to see more machines out in the wild. But the machine that I love most of all, it'll be a long time before I see that back in the wild. I love the gambling pinballs most. But,
yeah, okay.
Those are really hard to come by. So
yeah, I'm kind of surprised that I was just thinking about this. Thinking about this, like when I went to the casino, like my parents, like months ago. I'm almost a bit surprised that gambling pinball tables haven't haven't returned to the casinos, because it kind of seems like the logical place for them.
I agree, except there's an element of skill. That's the problem. These dedicated players that play these machines would be able to make money on them, and the house has to win at some point.
well, it's like I don't really see that as being too much different than like particular machines like in Japan, because those have some skill involved in them also, but they operate like in gambling, a few gambling places. So it's like yeah. So I don't understand the distinction, but
I'm curious. I'm not super familiar with pachinko, but I'm curious if you're able to actually influence the ball by nudging the machine at all, or if it's all purely the angle of insertion of the ball.
Yeah, I don't believe there's any
I don't
nudging.
know, why don't we try? Let's go find a pachinko machine and just smash it with a sledgehammer and see what happens.
Well, George and I covered some pachinko Super NES games a while back, and for the research I did on them, there's no nudge feature like in those machines. The skill comes into the angle to shoot the ball, how you bounce it around.
I don't know if you are able to even touch the machine because I think they're kind of like slot machines and they're just all together, no?
For the most part, yes.
And from what I understand, they're bolted to the wall, so I don't think you're going to be able to do very much at all.
Unless you're like the Hulk or something. I honestly really wish Pachinko Wars, I wish somebody would translate that game because I honestly want to play through that game.
Is that like an RPG?
It's got like some story. You go to like different Pachinko. I honestly don't know much about it, but there's like, apparently there's like dialogue and like you go to different Pachinko places and you go and try to like make money, obviously, off of playing Pachinko. But like it's called Pachinko Wars and it's got dialogue in it. Like that's got me interested.
That
and
sounds
a lot
fascinating
of those,
to me.
yeah. There's like, a lot of those Japanese games, the ones that obviously did not come over here, a lot of them go further than, games that you would find over here. So I'm really wondering what it is. And I think there's a sequel as well. I just really hope somebody translates it, even partially, just to see what it is.
Yeah, I'd be curious to play it if anybody did.
Yeah, you could still play it without like any of the dialogue, but you got to figure out what you're doing. And
yeah,
you gotta have those flavor text,
Yeah, well, I don't think it's just flavor text because like, you apparently it seems like you have to buy certain things. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was fun just playing the Pachinko on that.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it does sound interesting. So, but yeah, so so as far as this game went, it seemed like it was proper to cover the sequel to this game, since we talked about it previously. And Nick was so great with his pinball knowledge and expertise last time. It seems again a natural fit to have him back on the podcast. So we're not going to talk about the company or the background too much because we've already covered a good deal of that, like in our past episode, like Pinball Dreams. This is the second of the third games of the trilogy that Dice Digital Illusions created. Pinball Fantasies, of course, being the first game. Then Pinball Dreams being the first game. Then this one, Pinball Fantasies, and then the last game in the series was Pinball Illusions. And this game came out. Same people behind this game. Developed Digital Illusions, published by 21st Century Entertainment. Came out originally like with the Amiga in 1992. Then got ported to a bunch of systems. Most of the conversions, including the Super NES one, was handled by Spidersoft, and the game was published by GameTech. Same stats. The same stats for this as in Pinball Dreams. This came out in North America in February of 1995. And this game was this game also was very popular, like the first game, and this game also got ported. To a bunch of systems. Besides the Super NES, the PC, and the CD32 and the Jaguar also got versions of it. And then, more recent times, the game's gotten ported to the PSP, the iOS, and also the PS3. So it's still available in a modern version for anybody out there that wants to play it. The engine's the same as Pinball. The engine here is the same as Pinball Dreams. Like Pinball Dreams, it features 4 tables. The interface is the same pretty much as Pinball Dreams. You have the scoring display on the bottom of the screen. And then and also the camera rotates the field up and down as necessary to follow the ball around as you play. Controls are the same, so just very much the same. The same game as far as look and feel and the graphical engine that was being used for it. But the tables, of course, are totally different. The 4 tables here are Partyland, which is a amusement park themed table. Speed Devils, which is a car racing featured table. $1 Billion Game Show, which is a game show style table, and Stones and Bones, which is a haunted house table. So again, but before we get into the tables, let's talk a little bit about maybe there's differences that you guys may have noticed between the. I noticed like between this game and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, like Pinball Dreams. This game felt a little bit more hastily ported to the Super NES than Pinball. Some of Pinball Dreams did. The ball mechanics felt the same, but they also kind of felt but the graphics felt a little bit worse in some aspects. It seemed like it seemed like me, for example, that the system had more of a problem keeping up with the scrolling of the playfield and trying to keep trying to keep the ball centered on the screen with this version of the game. The version of the game, as opposed to like Pinball Dreams. And I don't know, and I don't know if this was because this game is more sophisticated, or because it was more a sloppy conversion job, or what. But so I'm curious if you guys noticed that, or any of the differences that you may have picked up on, like this game versus the last one.
I have a decent amount to say about this game, and a lot of it is negative.
Well, go ahead and get
honestly,
us going then.
I got the same feeling with the ball tracking and everything, but I don't specifically know what it is, but I know the problem that I had was sometimes I would use the plunger and shoot the ball out, and next thing I know, it just dumps into the middle, and I'm like, I didn't even see the ball. It's zoomed in too much. It shows too little of the table where the ball is, so it's hard to keep track of where it is compared to the flippers, because a lot of it was, by the time I knew that it was there to hit, it was already a lost cause, and I kept finding myself just dumping the ball and hardly being able to hit it. Honestly, it's really weird, but the last table, what is it, Stones and Bones?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That one I had the easiest time playing, which was weird. I actually was able to get a decent score and actually get on the scoreboard, or the leaderboard, whatever you want to call it. I was actually able to get on there. Every other table was just a mess for me. And I couldn't figure out if it was me or if it was the game, but I know there was a bunch to the game that I just didn't like. Like I said, it seems like it's too zoomed in on the ball, and I understand resolution and how much the console can render and everything. You know, I don't know if it was because maybe it might have been some kind of rush job or something, but honestly, there was something there that just didn't make it work very well, and I don't know if you guys had the same feelings, but I mean, when you're able to actually hit the ball, it works, you know, it doesn't feel broken in that type of sense, but I feel like some of the boards actually just weren't made properly, you know. Some of them felt like they had some dead spaces, or maybe the targets were like they could have been placed a little bit properly. I don't know if that's just me as well or what, but
no, it's not.
Okay, all right, that's good to hear. You know, I just, you know, how do you guys feel about? Did you have problems playing as well, like me, or what?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with everything that you said there. So, Nick, how about you?
So, you guys, I actually have an answer as to why it felt that way.
Okay.
I don't know if you played around in the options menu at all, but they did actually tweak the physics engine of this game a little bit. And one of the most interesting changes that they made is they made it so you could change the pitch of the machine, of the table. So by default, it's set up to this extremely steep pitch, which makes the ball move faster, but unfortunately has the side effect that the engine can't really keep up with it.
Yeah.
And,
I did not realize that. Dang it.
Yes, so you can actually lower it and make what they say in pinball circles is they say it makes it play more floaty, but older machines typically have a lower pitch than newer machines. So the whole deal with this game, last game I had mentioned they were trying to emulate like System 11, which is a very specific period of time in pinball history, the late 80s, very early 90s. And this one is emulating the very early DMD era, which is at the beginning of about 92 that started. So each of the machines or each of the tables that we'll go over, I'll give you kind of the analog where they got the idea, but that tweaked physics engine plays a big part in how the game feels and why things are odd. Like, for example, it's possible to get the ball to accelerate so fast that the ball will drain without actually rendering the lower third of the playfield.
Yeah.
And then you say, where to go? There's no way for you to actually save it because you can't see it. So you have to play by feel, kind of. So lowering the pitch is helpful, but there are some shots that are extremely difficult to make with a lowered pitch.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really a huge trade-off as to, do you want the machine to play as they intended, but impossible to track the ball? Or do you want to make it easier to play, but not be able to actually hit some of the shots that you need? So that's one of the issues that I had. Another thing, as far as physics goes, is they made vacuum ramps. So you start to shoot a ball, and it really doesn't have enough momentum to carry it all the way up the ramp.
Yep.
And on some of the ramps, it'll actually, suck it up and into the ramp without you having to make that shot smoothly. That's a hallmark of a bad physics engine in a pinball game.
I'm glad it wasn't just me.
No, it bugged me every single time. Another thing that really bugged me is the slingshots. They tweaked how those worked in this game. And they made it so that instead of working similarly to physical slingshots, they made it so that if the ball is rolling and it has momentum and manages to hit one particular spot at the upper portion of the sling, it will completely kill the momentum and drag itself down, scoring all the time as it goes down to the flipper. Well, the problem with this in a physical machine is that it would have kicked it away as soon as it scored. So if it's got enough pressure against the rubber to actually score, then it should kick the ball. But instead, you get this weird, terrible sound effect as it goes down to the flipper.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They did, however, keep the other annoying thing about the slings, and that's that every portion of them that's exposed outside of the in lane can kick the ball. So if you hit the post on the top of the sling, it will kick just as forcefully as if you had landed right dead at center on that slingshot. That bugs me a lot. So normally on a machine, you bounce off of that, and that's okay. You get some bounce, but it's not going to kick it, all the way up the playfield or straight out into the out lane, which happens about 99% of the time. Another interesting thing, because they switched from that kind of, what am I trying to say? Alphanumeric display to the DMD, is they added a match feature. And I don't know if either of you were able to get a match at any point.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing, I saw that and said, what are they going to give you if you match? Because there's no replays in any of these games, and typically the match gives you a free game. Well, in a real machine, you can set it to either free game or extra ball, and they have theirs set to extra ball. It's kind of cool. So you can continue where you left off and try to keep accomplishing these inscrutable modes. And that's... the other note that I have on a general basis is that the high score music is the best in the entire game. I don't know if you felt that way, George. I know you said you got to Stones and Bones as high score. Did you have any commentary on that?
I didn't hear it for long, so
Yeah. Some of them, like Billion Dollar Game Show, it's just really, really good pinball
Right.
music.
right.
So I was genuinely shocked when I
Yeah,
heard
I
that.
actually kind of like that. I mean, my favorite table was probably the race car one, but yeah, I think Stones and Bones was actually just really limited and really ugly.
I agree.
Yeah,
Ugly as far as graphics or what?
just I mean, not really graphics, but just like it's lacking like in art style and placement and everything. Really,
Yeah, play mechanics and art style, I agree completely.
yeah.
I actually like the table the best out of the 4 tables, but we'll get into that.
Was it because it was easy for you?
It definitely was easiest. Because going off what Nick was saying earlier, I found these tables overall more difficult than the tables in the last game because like some of those shots I never made. It's like it's like certain ramps and certain skill shots on the tables. I'm like, how the heck are you supposed to do this? But
I at least had a chance on the other game. This game, I had like almost no chance.
yeah, so the graphics are fine, but again, like the last game, I'm not sure if you guys looked at or played the Amiga the original Amiga version, but again, compared to the Amiga version, this is the graphics of this game are like a significant downgrade. I mean, they did what they could with the engine of the system, but
I mean, when you're comparing to the Amiga,
yeah.
I don't want to say it's unfair, but you're obviously going to see a difference.
Well, the sounds also sound terrible, and there's missing there's missing sounds in this version of the game too, like compared to the original like Amiga version. So, and also at least 2 of the tables. I don't know if you guys ever ran into this, but eventually after playing some of the tables long enough, the music just kind of like fell apart. It's like there was like
I never noticed that.
Yeah,
Really?
like,
That didn't happen to me.
yeah, so like I don't know if it's an emulation bug or just something happened with for the programming itself, but
How long were you playing these tables for?
I put about an hour into each of the tables. I want to say, like on and off over the last couple of weeks. But like you, George, the only tables they ever reached the high score on was like with Stones and Bones. That's saying a lot.
I don't feel so bad about that now.
The music I think is quite good. The same guy composed the music in both games, and directly taken like the Amiga original. So again, for like Pinball Dreams, I do appreciate how much the music matches the theme that matches the overall theme of the tables and how it sounds. I think I like Stones and Bones music the best, but I thought
What?
yeah, but I thought all the tunes definitely did a good job of trying to match the overall theme of the table. So the music's definitely one of the best parts. Best parts about the game for me.
Did we play the same game?
Well, everybody's got different opinions.
No, you're right. I just feel like it's odd.
I feel from a music perspective that I agree with Greg that the Stones and Bones actually has the best background music track.
Really?
Yeah.
I disagree on that, but all right. Well, then I guess I'm the one who didn't play the same game.
Yeah. So I played the Amiga version also like a little bit. Also check it out, and it's like I'm not really sure what happened here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this was just simply a very rushed conversion job, or if the Super NES just simply wasn't able to handle these more sophisticated tables. But the differences between the original game and the port of it is way different for Pinball Fantasies than it is for Pinball Dreams, because overall, I thought Pinball Dreams was a very good port. Pinball Fantasies and just like meh, and it's unfortunate too because I think overall some of these tables, and we'll get into it shortly. I think overall some of these tables had potential to be much better tables. The tables that Pinball Dreams had, but because of the combination of the conversion and also because of some of the graphical and engine issues, they didn't end up being like as much fun to play, unfortunately. So. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. One of the guys commented on Long Play on YouTube that it kind of got me. I so you kind of get the impression that Spidersoft is given a month to convert both games, but both games still was only told this after 3 weeks in the first game. And yeah, I kind of agree with that. So, do you guys have any more overall thoughts about the game itself before we get into the tables?
I don't like it. I didn't really like it that much, honestly.
Comparing the two, I would agree with George that Pinball Dreams is the better game. But yeah, that's the only other general note that I have.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the tables themselves like a bit then. We'll start off with Partyland. I wanted to really like this one because I think that I think this is one of the most uniquely themed tables because I really can't think of any pinball games. And Nick, you have a much more bigger pinball knowledge than I do. I can't really think of too many pinball games based off amusement parks. So I thought the overall theme of this one was quite good, but man, where did I even start with the problems? I have problems. I couldn't.
I didn't have much of a party with it.
No, I couldn't hit that upper lane at all. That was impossible for me. I also could not get that R that was in party to light up at all. Which I think is supposed to light up after the cyclone lane. I'm not really quite sure about that. And on top of that, I couldn't get any crazy lights to light up for whatever reason. So I can so it's like that in turn I can never get the mega bonuses. So definitely one of the most problematic tables. Not the worst table in the game, I thought, but not the best either. So George, how about you?
I didn't like it, honestly. I don't know. I can't even think of anything specific right now. I honestly can't. I honestly don't like it.
Okay.
Sorry. Seriously. I can tell you about the other boards, but this one I don't know.
Well, okay.
I said, I didn't have a party with it.
That's fine too, because clearly I meant that this table did not leave much of an impression with you then.
Yeah, I guess that's true, yeah.
So Nick, what was your take on this one?
Alright, I've only got 2 pages of notes on this one.
Oh, wonderful. How many pages of notes do you have for the other ones?
Less than 1. So this one has my most...
You're
the expert here, so...
Yes.
One thing that I noticed with this game, and this was the only one I was able to trigger it on, but they must have this implemented in all 4 of them, is something called ball save. And this is a feature in modern machines to keep you from losing your quarter right away, or your dollar. Is that if you don't hit any switches on the playfield and you just drain straight down the center from the plunge, it gives the ball back to you for free.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of those.
Okay.
Yep, same here.
I was only able to trigger them on this game, so were you able to see them on the other machines, the other tables?
Now to mention it, yes, I think I did hit. Yes, I think Stones and Bones. I remember hitting the save on that one too. So, it must be all 4.
Yeah, it's an interesting feature. Normally on a physical machine, they'll light up the extra ball insert to tell you that it's active, and then unlight it if it's not. But not in this case, because those extra ball inserts never light for me. So you'd mentioned, Greg, that there were no physical machines that had this kind of theme. Actually, there was a series of 3, Comet, Cyclone, and Hurricane. And these were made in the 80s to 90s. Hurricane was the last one. And they were extremely successful. They were themed after these roller coasters that were near Chicago. So ride the Comet, ride the Cyclone, and I'm assuming ride the Hurricane. But this one specifically is the most similar to Cyclone. What's interesting about that is Cyclone is an alphanumeric game, and this is a DMD one, so they kind of punched it up a little bit in some respects, and they really messed it up in others. Um, so one thing that's kind of interesting about that series, it's most famous for probably its artwork. And the first million-point shot in pinball was Comet in a modern machine with flippers. But Cyclone, Comet, and Hurricane all had the same artist, Python Angelo, who was a bit of a character, and he had really interesting artwork that was very detailed, had a ton of little in-jokes and hidden jokes in the artwork of the playfield, the back glass, and the cabinet as well. So his designs are pretty interesting from that perspective, and it looks like they tried to emulate that a lot. So things that really stuck out to me were there's an upper playfield that you can get up to with the leftmost ramp, and there are inserts up there that spell the word puke. Which is
what a tasty word.
Yeah, that's probably the first for pinball, I think. If you manage to hit that ramp twice, then you'll light one of the letters in party. So it starts with T for some reason, or perhaps those are old-based letters. Like as you said, Greg, perhaps the lower ramp, the Comet ramp, if you hit that multiple times, it'll light up R. I think everything that lights those letters, if I understand the way the table's supposed to work, is 2 shots to the same area in a row. So it's kind of, in a modern machine, that'd be something called a combo shot, where either you're feeding to another area of the machine that is close by and intended to score alike, or to the exact same spot over and over again. So I think that's a primary goal. Unfortunately, I was only able to light T, so I have no idea what happens when you light party. There are a ton of scoops all over the playfield. There's a hidden scoop or subway right off of the plunge if you manage to have the ball lose momentum right as it goes around the arch at the very top. And from there, that's your skill shot, actually. It will shoot out of a scoop that feeds to the upper left flipper. And from there, if you hit the Comet ramp, then that's your skill shot and you earn a bunch of points. Or I'm sorry, the Cyclone ramp. I was never able to do that. Let's see. Attempt to spell puke. Yeah, all right. There's a demon scoop on the right-hand side that collects awards, random awards. And on Cyclone, the physical machine, there's the spook house is what they call it. And you have to knock down a ghost and then go into this vampire-themed area. So very similar idea, and you get a random award. You can light arcade by hitting stand-up targets, and then there's a scoop that's to the left of the upper left ramp. And if you hit that, you collect a bunch of points. That was all it ever gave me. But I'm not sure if that's also a random award. Both of the scoops dump you to above that top left flipper. So that's pretty crucial. The idea is you want to be on that flipper to hit that Cyclone ramp. I never once was able to shoot that Cyclone ramp. So the top flipper has 2 different shots. There's a Cyclone ramp, and then there's also this progressive cotton candy shot that you can hit that if you fail to make the Cyclone ramp. I was never able to make that one either, but that feeds into the pops. And I guess that's a general note too. The pops in all these tables are kind of protected. And you'll see this a lot in modern pinball, where the pops are under a ramp, or they're kind of squirreled away in a corner somewhere where they can't really do a lot of damage. So in older games, pops are extremely important, both for scoring potential, but also because if you jangle around up there incorrectly, then the ball is going to come flying out right down the middle. You don't really have that problem very much in any of these 4 games. One of them in particular is a little worse than the others, but they're all pretty safe with the pop bumpers, which is which is okay, but not great. So there are 2 frenzy modes in this machine: Happy Hour and Mega Laugh, and I have no idea how to start them. I'm fairly certain that that's what happens when you spell party, but if you notice to the left of the party inserts, there's another set of inserts that spells crazy, and I don't know if either of you figured out how to like crazy, but I sure didn't.
Nope.
So my last kind of note on this machine, this table...
Did you try, like, shaking the machine around? Maybe that's what happens?
Oh, I
just
shook the
full
machine
on
like
tilt
crazy.
it and it lights up crazy.
So, unfortunately, that doesn't like crazy. You know, my problem with all 4 of these tables is that the rules are, I mentioned it before, but they're inscrutable. They're really impossible to discern, even by batting the ball around. And if I were to make a virtual pinball machine, I would try to make it so that the playfield artwork kind of told you what you needed to do, because you don't have the gift of having scorn instruction cards on these virtual machines. Now, the manual, which I did not read, might have instructions in there, but so I'm going to complain that I didn't read something that probably has the answer. But
you're right.
But, you know, I just felt like these were very difficult to figure out what my goals were. Did you all feel the same way?
Yes, very much. I mean, like, that card that you're talking about on pinball tables. Again, it doesn't always tell you everything about the table, but at least it gives you kind of like a summary. Whereas I looked at the manual. I did look at the manual, like the manual for this game, and the manual doesn't really help all that much. It's just a
well, great.
It's kind of. it just kind of gives you the same information that card would. It's like these are the bonuses. These are the skill shots. Does it just tell you how to do them? Not everything's like explained to you, unfortunately.
Well, that sounds like it'd be better than nothing, which is what I was assuming that it had. So sorry for cutting you off there, because you actually told me the answer I was looking for. So yeah, I'll go back and read the manual and then see if I come back with a fresh appreciation. But yeah, I would say this is one of the weakest of the bunch. I wouldn't say it's the weakest one for me.
Yeah, I have the same feeling definitely on this. So thank you for that. Yes, thank you for that in-depth analysis. Now that you mention it, I think I have played Cyclone once before in the past. I just forgot about it. I think probably because I found the table to be very, very difficult.
It's pretty neat. It's got a Ferris wheel that the ball can ride in.
Oh, cool!
And it'll dump it to a ramp that feeds back to the flipper. So it's pretty fun. It's got some funny call-outs and things, which this game tried to emulate as well. So
yes.
When you drain the ball, it says something about puking.
Yes.
As well. Yeah. And sound effects supported that too. It's just like, okay, they're really leaning into that.
Yes, for sure. So all of the tables did have unique ball drain message, which I thought was a nice touch at least. So
yeah.
But, yep. So the next table, Speed Devils. This one, I was reminded about a physical table. This one kind of reminded me about the Getaway, a small bit, which is a table I really like.
Exactly.
Never played it.
Yeah, my college used to have one. In their in their game room. It's an outlaw themed kind of a game where you're in a sports car trying to get away from a cop car. So, and there's there's a flashing police light on top of the table that can go off every now and then. So pretty cool theme overall. So, this table was okay. However, I think this table probably suffers the worst in the conversion like the Amiga version. It was certainly one of the most, probably the most difficult table for me. I could not hit the ramps at all on this one for some reason. It's just like, I had just...
It is a little difficult, yeah.
Yeah, I just had a terrible time trying to make any kind of progress on this table. And you have to hit the ramps to be able to make a table progression like many of these. So that just really sucked. And also when the flippers aren't for some reason on this table the flippers are in operation, but constant clicks are clicks I really found annoying as well. So overall I really liked the theme. I really wanted to enjoy this table, but again for me not the worst in the game, but definitely not the best either. Just kind of a lot of wasted potential. I think partly just because I think this table was the one where I found the physics engine definitely the most annoying and limiting. Like ramps and other things. So,
yeah.
So George, it sounded like you had the same frustrations.
It wasn't super easy. I hit a few things. It's pinball. I don't know. I like this table, but it was difficult. It was not the most difficult that I played on here, but I like the aesthetic, so that's something, right?
Yeah. Like I said, the aesthetics of this game are really nice. I really want to like this table, because of that. But it just fell apart so quickly into it, unfortunately. But Nick, so what were your thoughts? Your thoughts on this one?
Well, you hit it right out of the park. It's extremely similar to Getaway as far as theme goes. Right off the plunge, you're dumped into this little area with the word pit, P-I-T.
I see what you did there.
Dumped into the pit. And you have to watch out for snakes. But what you want to do is launch the ball. There's an upper flipper there. And right as you drain through one of the letters, you can flip back up into that area and try and light all the letters. And there's something called lane change in a physical machine that allows you to switch which letter is lit, so that you can hit one of the other letters that isn't. If you light all three of them and then hit the off-road ramp, which is in the upper left, you'll get 2 times your bonus, which is helpful to start the machine. Straight up from that pit area, if you mistime the flip back up to the pit, there is a pit stop kickout. And so that's shaped like a little kickout hole, which normally captures the ball in a little saucer and then kicks it out. But the way they programmed it, it's like a kick back, which is actually a coil that sits there and waits and waits and waits until a ball gets close to it and then kicks it out as fast as it possibly can. So the unfortunate thing about that is that kick out shoots basically right down the middle. So you have to nudge. And this, again, is the table, and both of you mentioned it, I think, that the game has trouble keeping up with. So because it's moving so fast, the ball, this is the one where it only rendered 2/3 of the machine for me one time when it got a kick out from there. So
yeah, that's crazy.
It's nuts. Yeah, they went way overboard with how high they pitched the thing. I mean, kudos to them for programming in 2 different versions for each of these, but I really feel like they dialed up the physics a little too high to make it playable. Now, one thing that I don't know, I was able to complete Pit several times, but my bonus multiplier only went up to 2x when I hit the off-road lane. I was hoping that for each completion, if I were to then go back through that off-road ramp, it would increase my bonus, but that did not do it. So there's some other way that you can increase your bonus from there. You want to hit the right or the left ramp in order to light the off-road trail, which again is the same area that I was talking about. I have no idea what that does, but I'm assuming that it either changes gears or finishes a lap, and I'm uncertain whether this is a racing theme or whether it's a getaway style theme, actually, because in the center of the machine, there's a steering wheel that has 1st through 10th, and then right above it, there are inserts for gear. So I have no idea if there's a 10th gear in this car or whatever it is, or what. But this is one that I was also pretty much unable to do much of anything because it's just too fast, which must mean that I'm too old. But another thing that's interesting is they really cram in some of the things that you're tasked with spelling. So in this case, you're tasked with spelling burning, but instead of having enough targets for burning, they have burnin, B-U-R-N-I-N. And I don't know what happens when you light all of them, because I feel like I've done that multiple times, but because the targets are obscured by the time you're down at the flipper, I don't know if it awarded anything or not. So I didn't spend a lot of time looking at the display, but I do know that gear, the inserts in gear, light up independently. But those have no correlation to the 1st through 10th that I could find. But I don't know. So one other interesting note about this machine is that off-road ramp or area feeds into pops. And those pops are completely protected. I mean, there's no way to lose your ball straight from the pops. But then the ball goes through what's called a chicane lane, where it kind of wiggles back and forth a little before it goes down to the in lane. That is the most interesting piece of design from a pinball perspective, I think, on this machine, because there's an air gap between the in lane and the exit of the chicane lane. So you're able to lose your ball there if you're not paying attention, and you have to nudge it in order to get it to go in the in lane most times. Sometimes you get a clean feed, but it depends on how fast the ball is moving out of the pops. So overall, that's another one that I was not super thrilled with, mostly because at the speed that was set at default, it was unplayable, I think.
I would argue that most of them are unplayable at that speed.
Yeah, well, I would agree.
But especially this one.
Yeah.
Which is too bad, because this is a table. Which is too bad, because this table this table at first glance, I'm mostly looking forward to. And just like it's not, it's just like not that much fun, unfortunately.
Yeah. And even at the lower speed, and I'd encourage you both to try these at the lower speed, but even at that, it's still just incredibly hard.
Right.
Oh well, I did play the table's lower speed. But the problem I ran into is that the lower speeds, not only is the game not as much fun for me and also harder to play, but you can't get the ball to do those skill shots because the ball's not going as fast as it normally would. So I tend to leave it like the higher speed most of the time, and just like dealt with the other consequences of that.
I didn't even realize that there was a setting for that. So
yeah, always check out the option menu in the game.
I did, but I don't know how I missed it. I must have just. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's okay. I can see missing it.
The option menu is one of those weird ones where it shows you what the setting is, and then you click it, and then it changes without telling you that there's actually a thing you can change.
Right.
You'll know what I mean if you take a look at it. It's kind of odd. So.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You honestly are right about that.
Yeah. Well, the table I had the least fun with, and for me, I think it'd be the worst one in this game. It's like a $1 billion game show.
Really? I actually kind of like that one.
Well, again, for me, this is it. Well, again, for me, this is a table I went into with high hopes because, again, I can't think of a physical pinball table that's like this. So I kind of like the idea like right away. But I had the most bugs with this game. With this table. This is the one the music fell apart on me like eventually. Some of the lights I also saw failed to light up correctly, like maybe the skill shots. For some reason on this one, and the upper ramp is in the upper ramp. It's just about impossible to be able to hit hit that ramp like enough speed to be able to enter the end of the sidekick area and spin the wheel for the prizes. I think I was able. I think I was only able to finally able to do that like once. It was very, very frustrating. So the combination of the bugs that this table had, plus the overall difficulty factor, really just sucked the fun out of this one. Like for me, definitely my least favorite. George, you said you had some fun with this one?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I think I had more fun looking at it than playing it because it was just a lot of like, where's my ball? Oh, hey, it's back at the plunger again. So. But,
okay then. Like anything else?
It looks good.
It does look good, yes. So, I think the graphics in this one are probably the best of the tables.
It had like a Wheel of Fortune type of feel.
Yeah, it did kind of like remind me about that. So, so which one of us are you more inclined to agree with here, like this one, Nick?
I would actually say George.
Oh, okay.
Because, not that I can't agree with you, George.
That's what I was wondering.
But I really felt like this is the most pinball of all four of them. It was actually, I felt like the most thoughtfully laid out machine, despite some real oddities up in that upper area. But first thing, I just thought I should mention that this is a absolute 100% ripoff of the Bally Game Show, which is a late 80s machine.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, and it's not super easy to find one. They're not rare per se, but they're not easy to find. But everything from the playfield graphic of the wheel, with all the inserts, to the playfield graphic of the host, which, if you notice, it has this incredibly insane smile.
Yes.
It's really huge. All right, yeah. So on the Bally Game Show, the artwork for that, the host is called Keith McTeeth, and he has the exact same smile.
That's a scary name.
Isn't it? So it's kind of interesting. I will say I did experience some bugs, but mostly those were audio related with the call-outs. I felt like if you managed to hit the ball into certain areas without it triggering a switch, and what's interesting is that they did render each physical switch that you roll over. If you managed to roll into an area without triggering a switch, sometimes the music would change like you had done something, but your points wouldn't increase. It would just change the music and then change back as soon as you fell out of that little area. I thought that was kind of weird. But you might notice when you straight off the plunge, there's an insert lit for skill shot, but it's a ramp that you can't actually hit from the plunge, no matter how hard you try. So the way this game is set up, from the plunge, there's this huge ramp that can feed, it's what they call a Y ramp, and it'll feed either to your left flipper or to your right flipper. That's fine. You get the ball back to the flipper, and then you need to shoot it up to the upper flipper. The upper flipper can feed that skill shot ramp, and that's where you earn points. That's also the ramp you use to advance the game. So, as Greg mentioned in some of the earlier games, hitting those ramps is crucial to advancing the game or completing a mode or whatever needs to happen. This game also has two frenzy modes, which are named Mo Money and Money Mania. I managed to start Money Mania by looping that middle ramp 5 times. So basically, you don't have to loop them all in a row, but it helps because it's really easy to drain on this machine. When you get into that mode, all targets are worth 500,000 points, so it's incredibly lucrative if you're able to start one of those. I'm assuming Mo Money is going to be similar. The upper ramp, which is over to the right and up, that Greg mentioned had a hard time shooting, that ramp, if you loop it, you get 1,000,000 points per loop unless you have the wheel lit. And to light the wheel, you have to
Turn the page.
turn the page. No, it's all on the front page here. Unfortunately, I didn't write it down.
Oh.
But you have to hit various targets on the playfield, and then it will light an insert at random in the wheel. And to collect that, or to spin the wheel, you have to hit that upper ramp, and then it goes down to a little kickback area, which is pretty cool. And then you get whatever the award is, points typically. There's a little scoop as well that gives you random awards. So here's kind of my pet peeve with DMD era games, and that goes up almost to the most modern machines. And that's if there's a scoop or a kick out hole, the game will tend to hold onto the ball and then play an animation, and that kind of kills your adrenaline a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. So
Could catch you off guard too.
yeah, and it can when it kicks out, because you don't really have a feel for how the ball is going to come out of there. Now, luckily, these being virtual machines, they kick the same way every time. So, once you see it do it once, you can figure out how it's going to work. And I will say also from a physics perspective, and maybe the increased angle had something to do with this, dead bounces worked a lot better than they did in the previous one. That's where if the ball makes contact with the flipper, but you don't flip, it tends to bounce over to the other flipper, depending on how fast the ball is going. In the last one, sometimes your momentum would be entirely killed and you drained. But in this one, it tends to be more successful. So that's about all I had for this one, other than I have a big note underlined here that says the high score music is excellent, which I mentioned earlier, but it's worth saying again.
But yeah, definitely. Well, thank you again, for that. This table and all of the tables so far, about that very insightful, insightful analysis. The last table, Stones and Bones. I had the most fun with this one. I think it was the best table in the game. It did have its issues. It certainly had some. It did have some bugs, I thought. I had a very hard time hitting the right ramps to be able to get to the tower. I think I finally did that once toward the end, and I don't know if I was missing something or missing something. This is a game bug, but even after doing that, I couldn't get the bonus multipliers at all. To trigger for me. But yeah, the music I really liked with this one. The overall theme I think is fun. There's plenty of horror / haunted house tables out there. Haunted House is, like Nick mentioned, is certainly a great game. Certainly it certainly did feel inspired by that, in some way. I think that's just that. I think this table was the most playable out of all of them. Maybe because it was, because this was the less. To me at least, least complicated to least flashy out of the four tables.
Yeah, it seems like the most limited.
Yes, which is a good thing. There's bugs and issues going on here, so.
It wasn't very inspiring.
No, but that's okay. I mean, it doesn't need to be inspiring, for it to be fun, And
it was. I didn't really have much fun playing this one.
No, okay, so you didn't.
I was able to actually play this one, but it just seemed boring. It was so lackluster, and it wasn't even nice to look at, and the sounds were just eh. Yeah.
So, which table was your favorite then, George? I got it the 4.
I think I might have said this, but I think it might be the car one, the racing one.
Oh, Speed Devils.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So Nick, where'd you rank this one? Visibly tables.
This one is one of the lower ranked ones for me.
Okay. Fair enough.
It really didn't do a whole lot for me, but I love the theme. I really wanted to like it, but the thing that kind of killed it for me is the placement of the targets. And I don't know if you had a problem with this, but you're trying to spell stones and bones. That's a lot of stand-up targets, and the way that they have them arranged, it's like 2 targets here and 3 targets over here, maybe 1 target over here. So you're really shooting all over the playfield, which is cool, but the angle at which they are placed is particularly rough. And this is kind of like complaining that, the sun was in my eyes or something, but I did feel like a lot of hits off these stand-up targets just drained immediately. So I would have almost all of stones and bones lit, and then drain and not be able to complete it with the other 2 balls. So
right.
But yeah, other than that, I do feel like some of the touches were really cool. So this is obviously building off of the graveyard machine that they had built into the last game, and they added some new features and took away some features that made it more obvious what you're trying to do. But the upper left ramp leads to the heart ramp from Bride of Pinbot. Bride of Pinbot is the sequel to Pinbot, and in that one, you're trying to turn this robot into a human, oddly enough. And one of the ramps that you can hit right in the center of the game is her heart. And you go down this ramp, and it wiggles either to the left or to the right, and depending on which way it goes, is you get a different bonus, or you get to plunge again. So I thought that touch was very nice. I will say that whoever designed all these machines really loved upper playfields. That is elevated playfields above the normal playing surface. So I think all of them, except for the $1 Billion Game Show, had one. And in the upper playfield for Stones and Bones, you spell RIP, RIP. And that heart ramp leads to a habit trail kickback and random award, which is pretty cool. So over in the left area, there's, on the apron of a normal machine, the words kickback are written, and it's, it's a neat little touch. I like that.
Yeah.
The third ramp lights extra ball when you collect 10 screams. So each ramp shot is worth 1 scream after the first one, which is worth 2 for some reason. And each of the games follows that mechanic. Each of the tables within this game follow that mechanic. So in Speed Devils, you're collecting miles. So your first ramp shot gives you 2, and then each one thereafter gives you 1, and so on. Spelling key opens the tower, and key is the skill shot area. So this one falls down in the same way that Graveyard kind of did, in that you can't tell which inserts are lit.
Would you say it's a key area?
It is a key area for this table because you get a lot of points off the skill shot.
You like that one, Greg?
Yes, I did.
I can tell you worked on it for a really long time.
I had it right as you said it, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, so right off the plunge, you're trying to hit the lit insert in key, and unfortunately, it's really hard to tell which one is lit. Did you all have a problem with that?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Yeah, they all look the same shade of blue. So how do you know?
Unless you're colorblind.
Yeah, or you turn the contrast way up or down.
You'd be a madman to do that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you actually did that, did you?
I did not.
Oh, okay. You were not that hardcore.
I am crazy, maybe not that crazy. So,
okay.
So spelling key opens tower, which is a ramp off of the key area. So in order to get in there, Greg, the reason that you had trouble doing it is because to get in there, you have to make a right loop shot, which gets you back into the key area, and then the ball will shoot into the tower. which is this cool curvy ramp, which reminds me most of a game from the 1950s, actually, called Nine Sisters. And there's this neat curvy ramp, very similar to that. That awards you one of several things. I only did it once, but it shows on a little, what would be a playfield plastic mounted right beside it, the different awards that it can give you. So that's a pretty typical thing for pinball machines, but yeah, I thought that was a nice touch as well. Unfortunately, there's no way to know which award you're going to get. Most machines will light one thing or the other, have a chase lamp sequence or something to tell you what you're going to get, but this, you just get what you get. So there's an area called the Well, which is over to the far right, and that's a scoop with another random award, but that was always points for me. And so you spell stone on the left and right target banks and bone on the stand-ups in the center of the playfield to light vault. And if you manage to make that shot, you get 5 million points. And that's as much of the rules as I could discern. But I did have a lot of fun playing the machine, except for those stand-up targets, which it's primarily the ones in the center. And you probably know the two of which I speak, because I managed to hit those pretty much every single flip and go straight down. So, did you all have that trouble, or is it just me?
I definitely had that problem. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you even have to ask, because the answer is probably yes. No, guys, I'm a pinball god, and I mean, you guys didn't get 999,999,999 points? No? Is that just me?
Not me.
Never even gotten close to that in a physical table, like much less.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, much less this one. So, which of the four tables like in this game was your favorite then, Nick?
I'd say $1 Billion Game Show.
Okay. Definitely difference of opinion. Definitely difference of opinion. Like three of us this time around, as far as like which table was our favorite. So,
this game had a weird impression on me, because on some of the leaderboards there was somebody named DDP, and if you know wrestling, there's a wrestler called DDP. And then the $1 Billion Game Show table just made me think of the $1 Million Man, and I just thought of wrestling while I played that, and it was weird.
Well, the wrestling pinball games are pretty good, actually.
Never played any of them. A shame.
Yeah. But yeah. So so I just, unfortunately, I don't know if it's just because of the conversion job or just because Super NES really couldn't handle these tables very well, but definitely let down for like this one compared to like Pinball Dreams. I went into this with high hopes because I really enjoyed because I really liked. Because like overall, like, I like Pinball Dreams. It's like even the issues that it had, and just like this one, just like what happened. It's like I don't really know where to. I don't really know where to pin the blame at per se, but it's just like
you can pin the blame on Pinball. You can tell I didn't try that on that one.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, like, it wasn't just but it wasn't just this version that got panned. It's like if you look at the reviews of this game back when it came out, the original Amiga version sold very well. I mean, like, this game is loved on the Amiga. And the PC version of it, which also featured like all the tables, like, and everything, also did sold very well. But all the home versions got bashed like pretty heavily. Just talking about the Super NES version, first tier, GamePro basically said the same complaints about the game we've already talked about, like, to death here. The scrolling being like very jerky, the graphics are dull, they failed to make the ramps and obstacles stand out. Next Generation basically said that the biggest problem was, that the biggest problem with the game was that less than half the table table showing like at one time, and since most of the scoring devices are near the top of the table, it makes you shoot blind most of the time. So yeah, I agree with all that. And both magazines gave the game just like 2 out of 5 stars. So like not very good at all. The Game Boy version, they only got 4 out of 10 stars, by EGM. Basically because of the very simplistic graphics, the graphic sound effects that version of the game had. The Jaguar version was rated by GamePro as being only a little bit better than the Super NES version of the game, saying that the graphics were definitely like a nice upgrade. They're definitely better on the Jaguar than they were Super NES, and they're more in tune to the original Amiga version. But all the other faults Super NES version of the game remain there, and it's definitely not worth $60. Whereas by comparison with the Amiga and PC version of the game, PC Gamer back in 1994 ranked it their 33rd best computer game ever, of all time, and called it one of the best, some of the best and most realistic pinball action games you'll ever be seen on a PC. Also that same year, PC Gamer UK ranked it even higher. They ranked it the 19th best computer game of all time. And in 1995, PC Gamer also gave this game its best arcade game in 1994. So yeah, it looks like if you're going to play it, you definitely want to stick with the Amiga PC versions. But luckily, the newer versions of the game that come out in more recent years definitely emulate the pinball version. There's a Japanese-only PlayStation version of this game, called Pinball Fantasies Deluxe, which includes all the, which also includes all the tables, film, the sequel to this, Pinball Mania. The Game Boy Advance version of the game, which is called Pinball Challenge Deluxe, also tables added from Pinball Dreams. And in recent years, the game's also been ported to iOS, to PSP, the Nokia, the Nokia, and all those versions also feature are built out the original Amiga version of the game, so they don't have the bugs or same issues that plagued the Super NES version of the game. So it's definitely a very good pinball game, just not in the Super NES. I guess the best way to just kind of sum it up here, really unfortunate. That. This is one of the rare cases where the sequel does not fare as well as the original game, and just a lot of that's either because of the conversion or because of the limited Super NES graphical engine, or both, unfortunately. So, George, what do you think? As far as your final thoughts on this.
I don't know if I should tell anybody to play this. Honestly, it's just. I don't know. It's just not that great. It's not just me, right?
No, definitely not you.
Okay.
No, not just you.
A setting hidden away to make it easier, but then you get hurt for it because then the pinball does not move as quickly. And then if you have it on the fastest setting, then you're screwed because it's just way too difficult to play. I mean, having a difficulty setting should not be this difficult. It should not be this terrible, But I didn't even know about that, so there's another thing to that. But I just honestly, maybe I'll take a look back at it just with the other settings to see what it's like. But other than that, it's not something I'm going to touch again.
Okay, yep, I definitely agree with a lot of that. So Nick, what was your overall impression on this?
Well, on the positive side, I will say that whoever the artist was did a much better job this time of making sure that there weren't colors that hid the ball. So even on Stones and Bones, where they could have gone with a lot of grays, and they did in a lot of the metal work that's there, it's very easy to track the ball with your eyes.
I didn't even realize that, but you're right.
Which I appreciated a lot. But as far as the playability, I would say Pinball Dreams wins hands down. Overall, I'd say if you had the opportunity to buy one or the other, and that was your only hope, I would get Pinball Dreams. But there are some redeeming qualities to Pinball Fantasies as well, mostly in the $1 Billion Game Show. I think if you're a big pinball player and you expect the ball to behave a particular way, that one behaves the most like real pinball, I think. But then again, I could very well be wrong. That's just my opinion. But I did appreciate that one. The other ones, not so much. I really felt like all the other three were a big miss, unfortunately.
Yep, definitely. Unfortunately, but yeah. So sorry to have you on here for such kind of a lackluster pinball game, Nick. But there are the pinball games that came out with the system. So maybe we'll have you back later on in the future, like for something that's hopefully better. But
and don't forget, there were pinball games on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. So
yeah, that's true. Also, yeah. So
I've played a couple of those.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, some of the collections that came out with this, some of the collections that came out in the PS1, PS2 era, like, are very good.
Yeah, and there's some random medieval themed one that I picked up on a whim on the PlayStation Store for the PS1. I don't remember what it was called, but that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, this game is not very popular as far as the overall reviews go, as I already touched about, and that's reflected in the price. It's not very. There are not many copies of this game like available like on eBay. Probably one of the least listed, I should say, games on there I've seen so far during the history of this podcast. The 20 copies currently listed, 10 copies like recently sold. Both those figures like a low. The game's pretty cheap also. Card only, the prices sold, and these include shipping, ranging anywhere from the $6 to $28.
Not worth it.
Yeah, a very $6.
I'm sorry, but I don't know if I would want to spend that money on that.
Well, $6 to get somebody to play against. Yeah, maybe I could probably see picking it up. CIB, only 2 copies just like sold recently. One of them $25, one of them $29. So again,
no, thank you.
So for collectors out there, this is like a relatively cheap game. I am curious in playing the sequel, like Pinball Illusions. That did not come out on any of the 16-bit systems, thank God, probably, because, given the problems that the Super NES had with this game, I can only imagine trying to, what that one would be like. So, yeah, I'm definitely interested in checking it out. So I'm gonna have to look at that. There are some the tables, as I said, were included some of the more modern versions out there. So I'm definitely curious to check it out. So final thoughts. Very interesting. It's very interesting considering what a major company that there are these days. That Digital Illusions got started off back in the 90s by making a number of highly regarded pinball games, because pinball is not one of the easiest things to program, I think, because of the necessity for the engines and the ball physics, physics like all that kind of stuff. So kudos for them. It's too bad they didn't have the rights to be able to say this port sucks, don't release it, but they obviously didn't have any say over that. So.
Hey guys, don't buy our game. Thanks.
At least not this version of the game. Like I said, like I said earlier, the Amiga and PC versions of this game are very highly regarded, to even nowadays. So there's a complete difference opinion like of that version, the original version of the game like versus the ports. So, but. Nick, it's probably a good thing for the Game Boy that you had like Pinball Dreams, like not like Pinball Fantasies.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
thinking the same thing.
But Yeah, so Pinball Dreams, I may go back to every now and then. I have no desire to play this version of the game again. It's really like shoddy job, unfortunately, and I was very sad to see that overall. So, but yeah, it is what it is. So do either of you guys have any final thoughts about this?
No, I basically said everything.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree with you, Greg. Pretty much 100% there. For $6, it might be fun, especially if you had somebody to play against. But yeah, I can't see it otherwise.
Yeah.
and I may be looking at Pinball Dreams with some rose-colored glasses after playing this one.
Oh yeah.
Because I seem to remember there were some stinkers in there too. But
right.
But I seem to recall that more of them were more playable than any of the ones in this one. So.
I want to argue that they were all playable compared to, this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So anyway, we will be back at you at some point in the future with other pinball games of the system, I'm sure. And hopefully Nick will be enticed enough to join us once again for that, because there are also some of the pinball games that came on the system, and so hopefully those games are better than this one is. I hope, but once again, Nick, we very much appreciate you coming to the podcast and sharing with us your best amount of pinball knowledge.
Well, thanks for having me again. I really love talking pinball, and I really love talking SNES, so thank you.
Yeah, even for bad tables like this, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta take the bad with the good, right?
Yes.
Where's the good?
There's some good things about this, like we said it. So we're trying to be fair.
I'm just kidding, Greg. I'm just kidding.
I never bash a game without seeing at least a couple of good things about it. So, but anyway, we very much appreciate you listening to the podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, comments, etc., you can leave us a comment on our Facebook page, or you can also send us an email to the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com if you want. We are a proud member of both the Retro Junkies and Throwback networks. We can find other retro-themed podcasts, both gaming and non-gaming related. And if you want to give us an iTunes rating, we very much appreciate it. George and I also do another podcast together, PlayStation Power, where we cover PS1 and PS2 games. I got some really special stuff coming up for that podcast pretty soon, so stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah.
And George, what other podcasts and stuff do you work on and do for us currently?
I do Master System Masterpieces, and I guess I do another one called The Box Sport. I don't even know what's going on with that right now. Yeah, that's basically all I do.
So Nick, how about you? What podcasts say you're currently doing? And if you have any other projects or anything going on right now that you want to talk about?
Sure. My main podcast is for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast, which might have the longest title of any podcast that has ever been invented. But,
I think you're right.
That is my primary one. I'm getting close to, I think, episode 400 now, or maybe I'm past that. I don't remember. I talk on there about EM and Bingo Pinball, and Bingo Pinballs are especially the ones that I love. I built a machine that I'm taking around the country to various pinball shows to have the public play it, that actually plays all of the Bingo Pinball machines that were made by 4 different manufacturers. It's got swappable play fields, and you can choose the game, and I've programmed in the mechanical randomization of the game per coin faithfully. So for each game, it was a monumental effort, and it still is. I continue to improve it, but I'm really proud of it. And if any of you happen to go to a pinball show at some time and you see a odd-looking pinball machine that has no flippers, look around for me, and I'll be happy to walk you through it and show you what's cool about it and some of the different unique features that were built into those games. Other than that, I did a podcast which is complete, at least at the moment called Virtually Human, which is the Virtual Boy Game by Game podcast. That was a really long podcast. It took forever to go through that library, all 14 games.
I know, it was crazy. Like, you've been doing this for 10 years and you finally finished.
Yeah, you know, just the 17 weeks of Mario Tennis coverage. But I feel like it was worth it in the end. So check that one out if you haven't heard anything about that. There's a pinball game on that system called Galactic Pinball, which is like hockey pucks in space that you hit with flippers.
Yeah, that actually kind of looked interesting.
It's neat, and there's some homages to Metroid in there, so it's worth a look. And other than that, right now I'm building a custom electromechanical arcade game, which is a 2-player simultaneous competitive. And that also will be touring around the country with me soon. I was telling Greg at the start, I'm in the tedious process of wiring the game right now. So as long as my engineering holds, that'll work really well and be a lot of fun. So we'll see. But I'm always working on something weird, and like I said, I'm just a little bit crazy, but that's what's fun. So.
Yeah. All those projects, the other projects, they really sound fun. Especially that last one that you're working on. I wish I had the technical know-how and skill to do something like that. I'd have a hard time trying to put like a main cabinet that could be like a challenge for me. So I think so. Kudos to you for doing all that.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, of course, definitely. And like I said, we would love to have you back. I was checking out yesterday this very weird Japanese-only game called Battle Pinball that came out with the Super Famicom. That's kind of like a 2-screen kind of sports / action / pinball game that really looks very weird and very Japanese. So that may be fun to play later on.
Well, now I'm excited.
Yeah. So maybe about 6 months or so, if Nick's willing, that we'll have him back for back in the podcast of that game. But because I know about it, it looks very interesting. And pinball is one of the things that translate translate very well because there's no words involved. So yay for that. Anyway, speaking about upcoming games, George, what game are we covering next?
Greg, why don't you guess? Oh wait, you know. Nick,
yes,
why
I
don't
do
you
know.
Guess? Oh wait, no, you know too. Dang it, we're doing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yes, which should be interesting, I think. Hopefully.
We'll see. I think it's a decent beat 'em up. We'll see.
I've never played it. I don't have high hopes, but like I said before, I'll come into it with an open mind.
Oh, that's mean. That's mean, Greg.
Yeah, like I said, I gave every game like a fair shot, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But again, thank you very much, everybody out there for listening to the podcast. Thank you for your support. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. George, thank you again for always joining me, and Nick, thank you. And Nick, thank you again for once again gracing us with your pinball knowledge and expertise.
Thank you again.
And we will see you guys later. Take care, everybody, and thanks again.
Goodbye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Pinball power.